All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 7th meeting of the Steamship Authority Port Council. I will read the requisite announcements before we get started, then introduce my colleagues and those in the room. As standard, I'm Gordon Carr, current chair of the Port Council. I would like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. If there's anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting, if so, please identify yourself. If you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Jason Graziade, Nantucket Current.
Thank you. Louisa?
It is I, Louisa Hofstadter, with the Vineyard Gazette.
Thank you.
Honored.
And that's what I've got.
Excellent. Statement number 2, concerning remote participation. Pursuant to section 20 of the Acts of for section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as amended, some Port Council members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. All Port Council members in attendance and all members participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. And with that, I will welcome my colleagues on the Port Council by calling the roll. Mr. Egan.
Aye, here.
Mr. Lowell.
Here.
Mr. Salita.
Yeah.
And that's the 4 of us, which is our quorum. Jones, as I say, board member is joining us in the room. Alex, you want to introduce the members of the Steamship team here?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I have Mark Amundson, our COO, Terrence Keneally, our chief legal counsel, our lawyer, Sean Driscoll, our director of communications, Mark Rosen, our controller, Allison Fletcher, director of shoreside operations, Stephen Coleman, our IT director, Janice. One of these other get it just right. Our director of human resources, and online, I see Zach Lawrence was online as well. And Monica is out there as well. Thank you, Monica.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on March 10th, 2026. I don't know if anyone has any questions or edits on any of those. And if I'm hearing none, I will entertain a motion for approval of the March 10th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Greg? Thank you, Joe. All in favor, Greg?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Excellent. On to the management report.
Thank you.
Pick that up, Greg.
Yes, we're going to kick it off with our engineering and maintenance project updates. I think Zach Lawrence online, our chief engineering.
Treasurer's report's on first.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
summary first. I'm
yeah.
sorry, that was,
We got backed up here.
You can skip it if you want.
let's try. No, I'm just out of practice for some reason.
Okay, so we have the business summary for the month of February. Passengers carried for the month of February were down, both routes combined 11.5%, or just under 13,000 passengers, with the Vineyard down 13% and the Nantucket route up slightly at 0.7%. Year to date, we're down 8.5% for both routes combined, or 20,718 passengers. The Vineyard's down 10.1% year to date, while Nantucket's up 4.7%. And again, all these statistics are one way. Passenger vehicles or vehicles less than 20 feet. The Vineyard route for the month of February is down 8.6%. Nantucket was down 0.9%. Putting this together, we're down 7.5% for the month of February at 2,144 vehicles. Year to date, we're down 5.3%, or 3,265 vehicles, with the Vineyard route being down 6.6% and the Nantucket route being up 2.2%. Keep in mind, February, that's where we had the impact of the blizzard during the last week. So not only was it the actual blizzard, but the aftermath after and leading up to it, people were getting to where it was being in place. We'll see that common trend in all of the traffic statistics in the revenue side as well. So for the freight, for the month of February, down 10.8% for both routes combined to 639 vehicles. The Vineyard route was down 14.1% and the Nantucket route was down 5%. Year to date, we're down 8.5% or 1,065 vehicles. Cars parked, for the month, we're down 28.7% of 1,348 vehicles. The Nantucket route was up marginally and the Vineyard route was down 30.9%. And keep in mind that a lot of things were shut down after the blizzard for that whole week. So that doesn't surprise me as far as how bad that percentage is, but in the scheme of things for the whole year, it is a small raw number. So year to date, we're down 22.9% of 2,328 vehicles. Trip summary, and excuse the typo for the month. This is for the month of February. For both routes combined, we have 8 trips canceled for mechanical, 130 for weather, 87 for traffic for the month of February. So looking at last year, those numbers were, for the month of February, we had about 97 trips canceled for weather last year. So we're up significantly, about 40% more weather cancellations in the month of February compared to 2025. Financial snapshot, revenues were down 327,000. Other income was up 54,000. So total revenue was down $272,000 for the month of February. Expenses were down 1.9 million. And that's timing, which we'll go over when we go into the financial the expense detail. But putting this together, we had a net operating loss of $5 million, which was better than budget by about 1.6 million. But it's really timing when we're going to realize these expenses because some of the invoices or the work being done in February got moved to March and later because of the weather, and we'll start realizing those later on. But year to date, we're down. We have an operating loss of 10,207,000, which is better than budget by 2.7 million. Again, that's really on the expense side, which will catch up later in the year. On the revenue slide here, we can see all the categories, virtually all the categories were down outside of rent, and that was a small number of $18,000, even though percentage looks big, it's a small number. But we're down $327,000 for the month of February, and year to date, our revenue is up $454,000 at 3.8%. Operating expenses were down for the month 14.6% at 1.9 million. Big driver there is the maintenance expense, in that we've already started seeing some of those invoices and work that were done in February, that were expected to be February, that we're realizing it in March. So we'll realize these expenses, I expect, by the end of April to be put on track to where we should be. So big driver in that is you have the Vineyard Haven project with the decking, which there'll be a slide later on, and I'll show where we stand. But we expect that number to come in right around budget. And there's some timing issues with the dry dock repairs for the vessels, which will realize those expenses in March and April. For the fuel, I know that's on a lot of people's minds. Believe it or not, in February, we're down $174,000 for fuel expense. That's really derivative of the amount of trips that we ran. We budgeted for $2.83 and it came in at $2.79. So in March, we're going to be over budget, but hedges kicked in where we get some relief off of the raw price that we're paying for deliveries. So we get about roughly $300,000 in the month of March for fuel premiums coming back to help offset the costs. Passengers carried for the first 3 weeks of March, we're down 10% or just under 9,800 passengers for both routes combined. Year to date, we're off 8.9% or 30,477 passengers. Total vehicles through the third week of March. Year to date, we're down 6,273 vehicles or 6.1%. The Nantucket route's up 0.4% or virtually flat, while the decrease is primarily on the Nantucket route across all categories, down 7.5% or just over 6,300 vehicles. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Questions from the Port Council for Mark?
I was just curious, how many days do we not run during the storm?
I don't have that exact number, but I know we didn't run a lot of trips on Sunday, a lot of trips on Monday. We had, not full service on Tuesday. And then compared to January, even though we had the storm, it wasn't a wind event. So you had snow, but you didn't have the cancellations, but we had a big impact. And then you got to factor in the amount of people who didn't have power for a whole week.
Yeah.
You know, and it impacted travel, or a lot of the truckers couldn't even get out of the yard for X amount of days
Right.
to get operating. So,
Significant impact, obviously.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And that's why this looks like we canceled the whole month worth of trips on the vineyard, because you have cancellations on the vineyard for like that, you're gonna see a large number pop up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an asterisk number.
and as well as a lot of the municipalities in the region, we've thankful for MEMA working with them and FEMA finding out if this is going to be declared an emergency, a disaster, and whether some of these expenses that are incurred directly with the storm can be reimbursed. So we're working on that.
yeah, remember the governor put in a travel ban through most of Tuesday, right? So even if people wanted to get down there,
Right.
they probably wouldn't have been able to anyway, or shouldn't have been able to.
This was a substantial wind event. I know I lost a couple of trees, as most people around me did.
Indeed. Other questions? I have one last one for Mark, so just remind me, how far out are you contracting fuel? Like, what are you seeing?
We are hedged for 2026.
All of
20, yeah, there's a couple variations, but I think it's like 90%, 90-something% we're hedged for the year. We have open orders for 2027 that haven't been filled. If you look at the CME market, last time I looked, it was like $4 current price. And then for, say, July of 2027, it was like $2.80. So it's really backward dated, the market is. But you will be paying a premium for what you're executing these hedges for, because there's a lot of risk involved. So we're talking with our consultant, we're gonna wait and see right now, because even though you might get good pricing, you gotta pay a lot to execute that order.
But again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but when you did your 2026 hedge, a lot of this quote unquote risk didn't exist. So
Yes.
so the 2026 premium is probably relatively
Yes,
modest.
yes.
Yeah, so if you were to look at absent that hedge, what you would be paying for fuel right now, probably a pretty significant delta.
Oh, we'd be paying in the fours
Yeah.
for the fuel, and we have hedges that are in the mid to low twos.
Great. Any last questions for Mark? Thank you. Now.
Now on to engineering and maintenance. Now Zach Lawrence will take the floor and talk about our vessels and the project status there.
Bring them over here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Zach.
Or-
So I'm here to talk about the engineering and maintenance project updates. The MV Monomoy. We've received the COI, and our sea trial is currently pending a couple repairs that we found ahead of our initial sea trial. CCTV installations are complete, Wi-Fi installations are complete, the vending machines are in place, plaque is installed, and all of our vehicle and truck lanes are also complete. Here's the financial snapshot for the project as a whole. And the total amount budgeted was 80.9 million. Payments made to date, 87.2 million. Outstanding commitments and allowances, 219,000. And our current estimate is $87.4 million.
Let me just jump in right there, Zach, first. So
Yep.
on the Monomoy, we are expecting her to hit service as soon as we get the sea trial completed with the Coast Guard. The idea is to put her into service out here on Nantucket Run as soon as possible. The latest at this point, knock on wood, is before when the next schedule change happens. She'll be in service there. We're just gonna slide her into service. We're not expecting any kind of fanfare at all with that. And then once we do that, we actually are in the process now of gathering all the data to do a hot wash on that. We're working with Bristol Harbor, one of the local naval architects, to help us with that. But we're pulling all our internal documents, so we can really go through it and understand where decisions were made, how we can improve the process. If the process was successful, overall, I mean, I still think it was overall a successful project. If you compare the pricing of what a Woods Hole would have cost back in 2023, before all the steel tariffs went into place, it was at 48 million without an engine. Add a standard diesel engine in it, that adds another $6 million, so you're around $53 million. So you would have one boat at $53 million, and probably wouldn't have had it delivered quite yet. So again, that's just anecdotal information right now. We're gonna go through and get some more details on that.
Yeah, I think that'll be a helpful exercise and agree, get her to work.
All right, sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. The MV Nantucket, she's still in dry dock down at Thames River Shipyard. She went into the water yesterday. We'll be completing the rest of the dry dock work items pier side. And our critical path item for the rest of the dry dock is the repairs to the bow and stern doors and to the hinges and getting the hinges line board to get everything straight. So we'll have both doors operating at 100% when she goes back into service. The financial snapshot for the Nantucket dry dock. The original contract price was $1.559 million. To date, total change orders and credits 106,000 for a grand total of $1.66 million. Vineyard Haven underdeck concrete repairs. Presently, zone A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and J. The demolition is complete. 92% of the demolition work repairs have been addressed. Right now, April 10th is the tentative date to begin pouring concrete. And to date, there's been 3 change orders received for this project. And as of this moment in time, we still have a completion date of May 6th. And just a couple photos just showing the demolition and kind of the scope of work for the project. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, great.
I have a quick question on Nantucket. Was any observations relative to the general health condition when anything unexpected when it was hauled out?
So we did an extensive UT survey of the vessel when it came out of the water. There was an area at the bow where we did do some steel renewals.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yep, sorry, Joe. Yep.
No, Alex, you had said something about you're gonna do some research or something on the 3 boats. I'm just looking at this approximately cost about $30 million a boat.
Correct.
What do we-
Yes, right now, the current budget, we're looking at just under $30 million per OSV conversion.
Okay. Does that include the price too?
Yes, that includes the purchase price. That's all in, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm trying not to say anything today. I'm not gonna make it, but I'm trying. Especially after yesterday. Jeez.
Yesterday was fun, come on.
It was fun, actually. Came out good. And I was right, as usual. My prediction. Oh, my God.
That's not on the agenda.
All right, so onward to the Woods Hole Terminal.
Standard item.
Mark?
Okay, we have the slideshow, Sean, please.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. Woods Hole construction is, we are nearing the end on the utility building. We expect to have our occupancy permit sometime mid-month. So the current milestone status, for the terminal building, the building construction is weather tight, exterior finishes and nearing completion. Concrete for exterior terrace and ramps and stairs have been completed. Installation underway for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Permanent power switchover has been completed. Installation of stone flooring and wall cladding finishes near completion. It's coming together really fast in the interior. On the utility building, the BDA system is being completed and tested this week, and that's the critical path item to us acquiring our occupancy permit for the utility building. Contractor is addressing punch list items, and we're doing extensive training with our crew for takeover. Employees take over for the commissioning of all the equipment, HVAC, etc. And upcoming milestones, we have exterior railing installation to begin this week. Interior casework scheduled to be completed by the end of April. Teledata room is scheduled to be completed end of April. Mechanical, electrical, fire protection finishes and fixtures are scheduled to be completed by the end of April. The exterior terrace finishes to be completed by the beginning of May. The exterior door installation beginning in May. It's coming together fast. We expect to get access to the interior of the building on our date of May 23rd. We're looking for occupancy permit, and the contractors feel very comfortable now with the June 16th date. So with that, I'd be willing to take any questions.
So if I can throw in a couple of things on my side as well. So on this, I think back in late falls when we started this acceleration project, we're trying to use overtime to get building as ready as quickly as possible. And with the storms and whatnot, that wasn't as successful as we hoped. So we are going to get interior access by the 23rd, but the actual access to the building is not until June 16th, which has been the date for quite a while now. On top of that, for the listening public, I know everybody's interested in this, and Port Council very interested in our traffic flow. I had a meeting. I've met with some of the select board members of Falmouth, and I met with the director of DPW on Friday. And in speaking with Peter McConnery, we're going to get another team meeting together with our architect, our traffic people, his team, maybe the fire department, and some of the people from Falmouth to talk about how we can interact with the city in that kind of, I'm not going to call it the Bermuda Triangle, but that triangle area down there on Railroad Avenue, and also I'm not great with my streets, but I think it's Crane that comes in, Cowdery and Crane.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we mesh as well as we can with the town and with the Village of Woods Hole, so we know we're the big boy in the glass china shop down there. So I'm going to work closely with them. I'm on the Bike and Pedestrian Coalition committee for Falmouth. I'm on their agenda for May 4th. City Council, I've been on their agenda May 6th. I might have those dates reversed. So we are trying to, and then I'm attending a meeting with business meter people down in Woods Hole and local people as well to talk about that. So, and then additionally, looking at the finances here, we are starting to pull the records on this project as well. We do intend to do a hot wash on this project as well, kind of go through it, see how the history was and how we came to the point that we're at now, so we can improve the process going forward.
Well, and back to the beginning, as they say too, right?
Yes,
I think
back to the
it'll be helpful for a lot of people to understand the origin of some of the decision making that led us to where we are today. So
Some of the original documents are probably on mimeograph.
maybe, but yeah, some gets lost to history. So I think that would be a good refresher for everyone at the end of these things. No, that's great, and thank you for the update on the circulation communications. And I'm glad you're engaging with the town, and I'm sure we'll get an update. Now with the June 16th, back to the regular deadline, there's some time both to understand that and importantly to socialize it.
And it's really important for us to get the traffic flow right, because we know we're coming into the summer. We don't want to have huge traffic jams down there, so we're gonna do what we can. If we need to mitigate with other lots, we have to look at that as well.
Excellent, great.
Could we put the financial snapshot up there, Sean?
Sure.
Sorry, I jumped out of that soon. So for the financial snapshot, our budget for this project here On the land side, 39.1 million. This is for the buildings. We've made 26.5 million payments to date. And our current estimate is 36.9 million. And with that, we wanted to take any other questions.
Questions from the Port Council on the Woods Hole construction project? Hearing none. Thank you. Great update. What's next, Alex?
It's a reservation system update.
Right.
Is you or Tom?
I'm doing this.
Okay.
Good morning again. Well, this is an update on our True North status on our reservation system. We've had some fantastic meetings with both Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, and on the mainland reference open houses and meetings with shippers. We get a lot of information, and we've taken that in, and it's affecting how we're going forward. Just a quick update. So we just discussed the town halls, and our recent process is working through solution design. That's working well. Upcoming key activities: refine and improve ADIA solution design. We're going to have ADIA people from Italy on site next week in Falmouth. Public engagement ahead of phase 2 policy vote, and we're going to share the procurement plans with the board and the Port Council, and finalize outstanding statements of work and contracts. Right now we have, you can see on our dashboard, we get 2 red areas. We're working through for finished solution design and approval of the R1 delivery plan. That's the upcoming action plan. Also, we're getting finalizing SOW with InterSystems, and that's ongoing. But I think overall the project, you know, we're in a very busy time period within the solution design. It's going, I believe, well. Just gonna work hard through it. And we go to the next slide, Sean. Okay, so this here is a snapshot of our timeline review. Of course, we're looking at where we have that circled area is the R1 go live date. A lot of actions are affecting the right now we're in a major part of system configuration and integration in our R1.1 through R1.5. This is where we felt we needed to get some on-site people here from ADIA to work closely with our team, would like to get some more time, carve it back. This is an important R1 go live date. So with that upcoming, we'll keep the Port Council and board updated. Next slide, please.
Well, just to underscore that point, at the IT security, the meeting that we had, the steering committee last week, I guess, there was a fair amount of discussion about trying to truncate that R1 to 1.5 time period to see if we could make up some time and do that, understanding that it's time on task, right? It's administrative and staff commitment in order to do that. So
very much so. Okay, so next on here we have we had our meetings with the public and our shippers, and so I'll start off with Mark, if you give me a hint on the change policy.
Sure. So the change policy, the goal is to keep it as close to what we have right now. And we're working with ADIA as far as what can be configured and what we can use in the business rules. We're trying to, when we roll out the system, to find out what enhancements the system's going to do to our processes, and then do an evaluation and come back a year later and then find out what policy changes we need to make everything better. So that is the goal, is that we're working with them and then trying to mirror after 1 change, 2 change, end up being basically where you are now.
And some of the feedback we got from the town hall meetings was, you know, we talked about a change fee, and what we heard back from the public was the first change fee should be free or no change fee at all. We've had a lot of internal discussion, and we want to leave the system as close as we can to what we have presently. We have to work with the DIA to see what we can do in the system, but we've loud and clear, we heard a lot of our stakeholders, what they told us at the town hall meeting, so I think it went really well. Next, gift cards, we can only do it in certain increments, and it's really kind of going, if you buy an Amazon card, you can buy it in specific amounts, and the system doesn't allow us to, for instance, buy a specific fare. So that is one of the encumbrances of an off-the-shelf system. No-show policy, our biggest thing, again, our customers, have a lot of concern, bridge work, etc. We hear it loud and clear. I can tell you that we will work closely with all of our stakeholders and our passengers. If you can show us evidence, you try, we just need to be called. We want to be called so we can sell that fare or get it to someone else that needs it. If you don't call, if you don't make any attempt, we're going to charge you, but we are going to be working closely. If you come down there, you show that you tried to call, or you called the reservation, Mashpee, etc. We're going to live up to that commitment that you tried. That's what we're asking the public to do. Concerns about the ability to call terminals to cancel reservations. We're looking to improve communications with terminals, especially in Mashpee office hours. We're looking at possibly expanding some office hours. There's a lot of, those meetings were really good for us as a team. We got a chance to really learn a lot during that time period. Coupon books, proposed policy will now be subscriptions, largely terminology change, no difference. Next slide, please. Okay, cancellation policy. And then this is our feedback from the shippers, our shippers meeting. We learned a lot, understanding there's many different models out there for the trucking industry. And a lot of times, they're making their original Head Start programs, etc., months and months ahead of time. The 48-hour cancellation policy is problematic for the truckers, and we understand that. So what we're looking to do is to roll that back to a 24-hour as it is now. We got to figure out if we can't do the 9 a.m. the day before, so we're looking to work with the DIA to do a 24-hour rolling ahead of time, and that will help the truckers very much so. And that's right now. We just got to figure out how we're going to work that in the DIA system. Mark, going to do the change policy?
And similar to the change that we mentioned for the passenger vehicles, trying to keep it as close as we can. One thing that we are looking at is that you have changes inside of that 24 hours, that you have a reservation for tomorrow, you change for say 6 a.m., you're changing it now. It's really hard for us to resell the space to someone else that's on short-term notice, and how to deal with those type of scenarios where if you're changing it 48, 72 hours, a lot of people can make their plans, but if you're asking someone, can you travel tomorrow on short notice, it's hard for them for new reservations. We could have people improve their times, but that's one of the things that's causing, today I look for a reservation, there's no space. Tomorrow I go to the boat, there's plenty of space. It's this last minute movement, which is great for flexibility, but it comes at the cost of some of the efficiencies. How do I handle those type of scenarios?
Indeed. Okay, so moving on, reservation transfers for commercial, proposed policy, shippers can only transfer reservations through approved SSA channels, hazardous transfers only. And we're still working on how to handle maintaining long truck to replace another long truck rather than splitting the space with a small car. Smoothing, the proposed policy is 100%, is 110%. We want 100% smoothing. We don't have extra capacity to expand. And of course, the steel treaded policy, we really don't want any steel treaded coming across our transfer bridges and onto our boat decks. We put a lot of money in M&R maintenance, repair, and coatings. And if you come down on a truck, you need to bring that on a truck going across. Next slide. So next steps, recurring meetings.
I'm sorry, this Got it off.
Okay,
So, and I'll just add, bookmark, what, and reinforce what Mark was saying, so. In that first slide on our dashboard, we had a couple of red spots that was, say alarming for us as well. It's not something we want to see on the dashboard. And one of the things we recognized is that having a D in Italy, there is, of course, there's a language challenge at times, but it's also just hard work with somebody who's 5 hours ahead of you. So that's why the impetus to bring India over here. We found that with when Allison and Wendy went over there, a huge amount of value was brought back from that meeting. So having India here actually on site once a month we feel is going to be a huge advantage to moving this project forward. The other side of that was, as Mark was saying, we got a lot of, I wouldn't say it was pushback we got from the shippers and from the boat, we got a lot of comments and we want to really relook at the policy. So rather than have that constant feedback loop where we have to keep going back, it's like, well, let's pull back and try to keep the policies as similar as they are today. And just let's get the system in place first before we start making massive policy changes. There are some policies that we have to change based on the system, but those we're going to try to configure as much as we can to match what we're doing today, just to make this transition as easy and as seamless as possible. So we're trying to claw back those reds into yellows. And those are some of the things we're doing. And then we're also circling the wagons internally with Tom from his Gibbous team to kind of like, where do we need to focus and put serious energy in to make sure we get this project moving forward rapidly and correctly.
Yeah.
Great. Other questions from the council on the reservation update?
I'd just like to say that I wish more people had attended those meetings. I attended both the truckers and the other meeting, and there weren't that many people on the vineyard that showed up. I think you can agree with that. I know that one of the biggest things that they had was the $10 fee, where we didn't have to pay that before. And the other one was on the trips, where you buy a ticket for only 5 trips, and maybe it should be an even number of trips. So you can have 10 trips instead of 5, or 6 trips instead of 5.
We talked about that yesterday,
Yeah.
Joe, and little history of how that came about. But that's just a configuration and a business rule. And to echo what Alex was mentioning about, again, the wagons, we're currently actively booking reservations in the sand pit and the test environment, doing that. We've in the test environment integrated the booking engine from Adia to the website that wasn't launched, and I recently successfully booked a reservation through that engine as well. So these are all good things happening behind the scenes that are going on now. So we're making good progress right now.
Thank you.
I would just applaud the staff and everyone for having these forums to get public input. I think it's really, really critical, and the outreach efforts are really good. So
I would second that. The staff has done a very, very good job on that.
Yeah, and when we get to the strategic plan update, I mean, that holistically was a priority for the strategic plan, but I think in practice with this reservation system update, and the team's ability to pivot to add meetings, either add in-person meetings or virtual meetings. Joe, I get it, you hold the meetings, but you can't guarantee attendance, but all you can do is the best you can to be available and intake as much as you can. I think Greg's exactly right. The team's unquestionably done that here. It does sound like that feedback was helpful and instructive for those people that are going to live with this on the other end once it's launched. So I think it's a great start, and I think part of probably a trend for the Steamship Authority going forward in a more regular cadence of outreach like this. So.
And one more thing, we do have 2 more sessions, they're virtual sessions on next Tuesday and Wednesday. They're starting at 5 o'clock, so hopefully at 5 o'clock time is a good time for people to log on while they're cooking dinner or not watching the evening news, but while they're cooking dinner and they want to participate. So that'll be a good time. And hopefully I realize that having them, we try to have them the right hour where people are really available. So, but next Tuesday and Wednesday, virtual sessions.
I know on the vineyard, it's next Tuesday.
No, they're virtual, Joe.
Virtual, I mean, yeah, virtual meetings. I just want to let you know, I think there are 3 town meetings that night, Oak Bluff, Second Town, and.
Right, no, we understand there's a lot of town meetings that day, but that's why we have the 15th as well, so.
Yeah.
Nobody said it was easy, Joe.
I know, tell me.
It was easy in 2004, I can tell you that. That was easy.
76.
All right, so the next item is our strategic plan implementation update, and we have our friends from Artelis are online to talk about that. Emily?
Bring her over.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be with you all this morning. We have a pretty brief update for you on kind of how 2025 shaped up for the second year of implementation work on the strategic plan. Roll through these slides and make sure everything's functioning the right way. There we go. So in addition to just sort of ongoing support for each of the outcome area teams who are kind of responsible for carrying out the progress of the work plan and the initiatives set for the organization, we did a few other activities that I think are worth highlighting over the course of 2025. And the first is kind of a nod to you all and to the board and the governing body around taking the time to sort of pause and reassess and reevaluate. And if you recall, we did that in August, sort of influenced by staff insight and recommendations earlier in May, to revisit the initiatives in the work plan to really just make sure they still reflect the highest priority of the organization and where resources, capacity, and effort should be focused. And I think that was a very valuable exercise, as you can remember over the course of the plan, adopted in 2023. So really 2 years in, a lot changes. And this organization's a good representation of that. And so it was important to sort of reassess and make sure that what was originally adopted and developed, kind of the spirit of that remained, but it was streamlined and sort of reassessed to meet the needs of the organization in terms of where you all were for 2025. The other thing we did is sort of reset and understand how the tool that we're using, which is LEO, to kind of maintain progress and understand performance overall with the key performance indicators, how that was being utilized by the organization, and making sure that we were communicating kind of progress in the right way. So we developed more of a real-time dashboard rather than the static report that was going into the board packets, again, to reflect kind of the ongoing work that was happening related to the strategic plan. And then lastly, we knew that the organization was going to be going through some transition in 2025. And so we began first with Mark Amundsen and his team and his new role as COO, and really spent some time revisiting the 2 goal areas or outcome areas that are most influenced by the work of his team to make sure that they still aligned and to kind of reprioritize or streamline as needed. And then recently with Alex coming on board, although we probably still have some more to do, but we've at least given him maybe the 101 of the strategic plan and kind of the basics of the framework and the work that's been completed over the last 3 years, so that he sort of knows the foundation of which to launch from, and really the strong alignment in the different work that the organization is undertaking and how that's reflected in the strategic plan. So real quickly, I just want to walk through the progress related to implementation and then open it up for any discussion or questions you may have. Just to kind of level set, this visual is designed to kind of show you how we move from the community developed and kind of board and council influenced framework, so the vision, values, and mission, into kind of the work of implementation. So it takes the outcome areas or the things that need to go well in order to realize the vision and breaks them down into manageable tasks over shorter periods of time. So really these shades of green is what we're providing kind of updates on in terms of how the organization is progressing across each of these initiatives. And the initiatives are what we kind of reassessed and reevaluated in August as well. And then to complement that work, progress I view as more of a trajectory of progress, an incremental or cumulative kind of percentage Whereas KPIs are more of a monitoring tool or a pulse for each of these 5 strategic outcome areas here on the left. And so, as you know, we have KPIs related to all 5, and we developed a separate dashboard just for the KPIs, so that as an organization, and particularly for the governing body and executive leadership, you could sort of see how things were going in each of these areas at a higher level, at a strategic level, in addition to some of the incremental or marginal work that's happening around the initiatives that were developed in the plan. So here's a snapshot of kind of where we are in terms of progress to date. And I think there's a few really important caveats. So we'll start maybe from the bottom up. Ensure financial sustainability, engage with our communities, and invest in our employees are all making really solid progress. And these outcome areas largely remained intact from the original adopted plan. And so it's good to see how well staff have kind of taken the bull by the horns and worked through these different initiatives and progress. The one that's maybe a little more 50-50 is engage with our communities. And honestly, this is where the reservation system plan and replacement sits, right? So I think you all are making really good headway there. That is a large undertaking, as you all know. And I think Mr. Carr mentioned this, but the way in which you're engaging your stakeholders and tracking and monitoring progress for this specific project is a really good kind of case study and pilot for the organization going forward. So there's much more detailed work planning that's going in, of course, to the project management aspect of the reservation system, but it's good that your strategic plan is still capturing that at a high level and recognizing, frankly, the amount of resources and capacity required to really execute that effectively. The top 2 are a little bit lighter in terms of progress, and I think that's mostly attributable to the rework that's been done in both of these spaces. So when the plan was originally adopted for particularly enhance, maintain, and green our infrastructure and assets, there were some kind of heavy loaded initiatives is how I describe them. And I think when we met with you all in August, we sort of recognized the need to really break this down and focus on the kind of the core aspects of infrastructure and asset management, which Mark Amundsen and his team are doing. So a lot of the initiatives here were reworked in kind of the spring and summer. So of course that kind of resets your starting point. And so that, again, on a good trajectory, but more work to be done here in the sense that we kind of reassess these in a good way that I think is much more streamlined and simplified for staff and for the organization to understand, what to focus on going forward. And similar story for provide safe, reliable service. Really, a lot of the initial initiatives here are operationalized. And if you remember, operationalized just means it's part of what the organization is doing on a day-to-day basis. It's no longer kind of an incremental effort or work planning that's needed and resources and capacity assessment, but really part of kind of the bread and butter of operations. And so SQMS, if you remember, was one of the initiatives here. Again, that's sort of part of the fabric of how operations go at this point. And so there were new initiatives developed in this space kind of mid-year, which is why you see smaller progress overall, which is a good sign. That's kind of the dynamic or iterative nature of the strategic plan, is to tackle what's the highest priority. And as that becomes part of what you do, then you surface the next level of kind of focus areas and initiatives, which is really the case for provide safe, reliable service. I'm going to walk through each of these again very briefly. I just want you to be able to glance at the active initiatives. Again, this is the reworked version after the summer fall, in terms of where staff are focusing their efforts. We like to go through the prioritization process. So what you are seeing are active initiatives. There may be what we call on deck, maybe pun intended as well, initiatives that are ready to go as you operationalize some of these active ones. And then also kind of a snapshot of how the relevant KPIs for each of these outcome areas finished over the course of 2025, some of which you all see in your packets already, but just kind of a quick view of how things were going. So For infrastructure and assets, this is one where we did work with Mark and his team to really get a good KPI here. So we used the 835 deficiency forms from the U.S.
And
Coast
just-
Guard. And looked at sort of how that tracked over the course of the year, setting a baseline based on historical performance and industry standards. And as you can see here, overall kind of managed well throughout 2025, remaining kind of below the target, the stair-step green, if you will, for each quarter. And then on the left in the table, you see where progress is across each of these. Again, remember we broke these down a good bit, and the focus really was on the 3 sister vessels and the last one that you're working to bring up. And so, we revisited sort of the green aspect of this to focus on what the state of Massachusetts was requiring of the organization and the steps needed to sort of meet that requirement, and recognize some larger capital planning and execution work to come as you move into 26 related to ongoing vessel acquisition and replacement plans, as well as some of the terminal work in Nantucket and Vineyard. For safe, reliable service, the KPI here is canceled trips. You all are familiar with this. We sort of distill it down to those that are mechanical issues, those that we feel like you have a little more control over than, say, the weather, as a good metric of how day-to-day operations are going. In talking with Mark as well, I think the kind of jump above the target, which was really maintained throughout most of the year, except for the last quarter, was with the Idaho going out of service and not really having the replacement vessel to kind of keep up the trips for that specific vessel. But otherwise, sort of on pace as expected throughout the year. And then again, this is the outcome area where we had quite a bit of new initiatives / rework. And there's really 2 key things that are a focus for staff here in this area. One is with the 3 sister vessels, really leveraging that standardization across operations and learning how the same tools and parts and processes can be effective and efficient for the way that you all conduct business. And so taking that opportunity to do so. And then what's sort of next is, I think, a holistic asset management assessment, particularly for shoreside assets. I know, vessels are of primary focus, but you all maintain quite a footprint of different infrastructure and assets across the region, and really just understanding where those sit and using some of your existing processes and reporting to start develop proactive capital planning around those assets as well. For invest in our employees, really good progress in this space, and kind of one new initiative that is now active and moving and kind of part of the leadership transition. The focus initially from adopted was really around integration, onboarding of new employees, and communicating more effectively with new employees. So you can see kind of a org-wide onboarding process has been developed by the HR team, Janice and her team, and they're very close to kind of having a fully functioning employee portal and intranet for which communication can be shared across the organization in multiple locations and different type of staff, as you all know. Several metrics in this workforce area that you see here, all kind of trending in good directions. First, and very common, is employee retention rate. How are you doing from a staffing perspective? Are vacancies jumping? You're consistently well above kind of the industry target. We actually bumped that up to 75%, just given data and the way it was trending. But you're in the 90s, which is very good. And then the other key information is the number of captain's licenses, so certification and training needed to make sure that you have the staff to continue operations in vessel trips, as staff continue to move and churn over time. And then lastly, just a heavy focus on training in an organization like this with several safety requirements and whatnot. And so just making sure that the rate at which employees are participating in training sessions continues to march in a positive direction, and they're receiving kind of the professional development that they need to do their jobs effectively. Engage with our communities. Again, this is where the reservation system plan and replacement exists. As you can see, Most of the planning work is well underway. I think there's still just some kind of resourcing and ancillary system analysis that's happening. You all know the details of this better than we do. I think the important thing is that it's also captured at a strategic level as it is here. And then really beginning the work of implementing the new system with it that you all just went through. And then Sean and his team, as mentioned earlier, I think this large scale project has again been a really good footprint for opportunities to improve community engagement across your communities and stakeholders. And I think a lot of lessons learned in this are going to influence the engagement plan and sort of how the organization is more thoughtful in planning towards engaging with all of your various stakeholders, of which you have many. So a lot of good progress in this space as well. The KPIs are focused more on just how folks are getting information related to the steamship and what's going on. So your engagement rate for the e-newsletter and the number of social media followers, again, all trending in really good directions and well within target. And then lastly, we have financial sustainability. In this space, we're looking really at two different pieces. So one is, along with the reservation system and kind of the micro components that go with it, what are other areas that technology really can create more efficient operations and making sure you all are kind of capitalizing on those opportunities. A lot of this is in kind of administrative process flow, working with Mark Rosem and his team around invoicing and vendor payment and some of those small things that are just, you can leverage the technology out there now to just do those a little bit more effectively. And then finally, a more robust kind of financial forecast process, particularly for capital planning, that engages all the different divisions and departments within the organization. So making sure that they understand the importance that they play as subject matter experts in kind of the asset or operational needs and how that all comes together at an org-wide level within the context of kind of the rate setting process and revenue. The KPIs here should look pretty familiar. It's just tracking your operating expenditures and revenue relative to budget, which you all receive kind of on a monthly basis already. And that is sort of the quick overview. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm happy to kind of answer any questions that you all may have.
I've got a couple, but let's see who else on the Port Council has questions or comments on the strategic plan implementation update.
I just want to say thank you for this. I know it's been a while and a lot of things have changed since they were brought in. And I think that's pretty evident in everybody's mind, probably saying the same thing. And I think keeping this aligned, and Rob Mooney is not here and he loves talking about this stuff. So I don't want to try to sound like him, that's for sure. But it's keeping things aligned. We have this problem over here. We got plans everywhere and no one even knows what they are half the time. And I think the best way to approach this is to, again, keep aligned with some of the stuff that we're doing to improve operations, all the things that we're doing that have been mentioned at this meeting, whether they're part of the strategic plan or not. I think they need to just be sort of blended into that so that it's one sort of strategy instead of it being 3 or 4 different ones. That's how I see it, and I think that's a fair way to look at it now, especially now after all we've been through for the last 2 or 3 years. So thank you.
Great. Like you want to sort of imagine what those KPIs would look like, what those graphs would look like if you moved it to the left.
Yeah.
Pre-strategic plan, right? I'm not suggesting we do that, but like in our minds to see that progress.
It's just that like we have just so many different things going on. We forget the Woods Hole project, and we have the boats, and we have this, and we have that. It's reservations. We're trying to like blend all this stuff together, and I think that the strategic plan does that, or gives us that avenue to take, so we don't have different one goal over here that doesn't really match this goal over there, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at like the new build thing. Now we could go on for hours about that, but that's something that we finally have started talking about internally. Staff has done that, and what the next new build's going to be, I think we all know what that's going to be. But my point is like these things evolve over time, right? The conversation we're going to have about the Sankaty and the governor was something we didn't have before. These are all part of strategic planning. I mean, it's part of it. It's not something that a consultant can put on a piece of paper and say, here, this is what we're going to be talking about in 3 years. But that's what's happening. So again, we have that over here. It's unbelievable how many different plans there are and different, there's so many different things. It's hard for the public to keep up with it. But with us, I think it's a little easier to streamline things and blend it because we have a pretty good handle on everything that's going on. The Steamship does. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. That's right. And just a couple I won't completely nerd out on the strategic planning stuff here. Just a couple of quick observations and along the lines of what Nat was leaving with, which is sort of the public facing elements of the messaging of the strategic plan. I will encourage us to at least include in the minutes of this meeting Emily's explanation about that initial bar chart on providing safe and reliable service, right? And why that there are very good reasons why that sort of looks as a bit of an outlier with the other ones from a progress perspective. And I think it's important for us to message that quite clearly as to why that is. And I think, as Emily said, in many ways, that there's good news in that chart that might not immediately get grasped. So I think we should keep that in mind in the sense that this may live as a static item that somebody might look at down the road and not necessarily catch the subtleties of some of that. And along the same lines on your KPI charts, several of those charts being below target is a good thing, right? Maintenance deficiencies and that kind of thing. So I don't know if we color code them above and below target. So if somebody looks at that and sees, a target line, if you're under that, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, depending on the chart. And maybe it's intuitive and obvious to everybody else when they look at the chart, but it sometimes is helpful if you're just skimming it. So I'll stop there. Thank you. I thought it was a really great update and really pleased with, how much attention the staff is spending on the recommendations of the strategic plan and implementation.
Thank you.
Final thoughts on that? Great. All right, moving on to old and new business.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily, very much.
Thank you.
Emily.
We'll start with Sean's got a couple of updates for old new business.
Just two things I wanted to remind everyone on. One, the preseason sale on the electronic 10 ride high-speed books is in what I'm going to call the Nat Lowell week, our third week of the extended time period this year. So that sale goes through the 11th, which is this Saturday. So you still have a few days to get your books if you haven't yet. And then secondly, tomorrow the Steamship Authority is hosting a multi-agency emergency preparedness exercise at our Oak Bluffs terminal. It will be very visible. There's a lot of agencies involved, and we'll start with a big simulated boom. So anyone who hears that, I'm sure someone will not get the message, but I know that we and the island agencies involved have been trying to get the word out about that as soon as possible so that people don't get worried about it. But that runs from 10 to 3 tomorrow. There will be a lot of activity at Oak Bluffs, which is not open right now, obviously, but all part of the plan and the drill. So just wanted to issue another reminder about that.
But the Woods Hole will be participating in that, will be docked over there for the exercise. And that leads us actually into the fleet disposition analysis, because to put the Woods Hole over there, we're actually activating the governor for the day, so that we can make the Woods Hole available for that exercise. When I go into this fleet, disposition analysis, fully humble, I recognize that people have a lot of feelings for all three of these boats. Me, as still a newcomer, I'm just hitting 90 days, so I've actually not ridden on any of these boats, so I have no personal ties to any of them, so I can kind of be the cold-hearted killer on this in some ways. But if it were me, I'd keep all three of them. I mean, I'm a sucker for boats, and of course, but we have to be cognizant of our finances, so keeping an extra boat does cost us a lot of money, so. Go to the next slide, please. So we came to you last month with this analysis, and we had a very kind of anecdotal analysis for it. We were asked to go back to the drawing board and do a little bit deeper dive on the analysis. We came up with the same answer, which was not totally surprising, but the basic questions we want to ask was, what was the annual cost to carry an extra vessel? What's the remaining useful life for these three vessels? And again, sorry to go back, we added the Nantucket into the review since she is our second oldest vessel at 53 years old. What's the risk of not having two spare vessels? And then what's the efficiency comparing these three vessels? So we went back and the numbers I gave you last month were on the higher side. So those were estimates. Those included dry docking costs. So right now we just took what the actual yearly carrying cost, not including a dry docking. So the maintenance, they're fairly similar in maintenance. The Nantucket's a little bit more, she's a little bit bigger boat. The insurance costs, the Nantucket is fully active, so her insurance costs are higher because she is in full service. The Governor, she can't fit into the slip over here in Hyannis. So during the winter, when we have all our boats doing repairs, we actually got to put her at a third-party slip, so we have to pay for dockage for her. And then you see the utilization. We only used the Governor about 90 days last year. We used Sankaty just over 200 days, and the Nantucket's in a full schedule. Useful life. The Governor, I mean, she's in her 70s now. Unfortunately, and when as far as ships go, that's usually close to obsolescence. She was built really well, so her steel is really good, but she has some systems on her that are really old and outdated. The steering gear, which Mark can tell you all about, is absolutely obsolete, and we would have trouble finding parts. We'd probably have to have parts manufactured for her if something happens to the steering gear. The Sankaty is still serviceable. We still use her. We plug her in quite often. Currently, she's out getting some steel work repaired. There was some rust on some of the exhaust systems. I think we have some repair work we have to do. So she's getting a repair over in Fairhaven right now. And then the Nantucket, she's a fully serviceable vessel, double ender. She's in a full schedule. You know, we use her daily, except when she's out doing her repairs. The risks of keeping an extra vessel, it's always nice to have lots of spares. If you can have them like today, it's very handy that we have the Governor available to us so that we can bring this boat out for this service. But that's really an outlier type thing. So we do have overlapping dry dock periods. You know, if dry docks get extended, it's nice to have a spare boat. And of course, there's weather issues. But again, the challenge with the Governor is she can only carry 5 trucks, whereas the Sankaty can carry 8. She can only run on the Vineyard route, which really limits her, whereas the Sankaty can run on all routes. She has a low tolerance for weather. Somebody sent me a video from last year where we had waves coming over the bow and knocking open the gate there. So she's a tough one when it comes to weather. The risk to the fleet is really moderate, probably very low on the Government. We miss her. Sankaty is high because she is so versatile. Fuel efficiency, this one, the Nantucket burns about just under 10 gallons per mile. The Governor burns just under 9 gallons per mile, and the Sankaty is the best one there. It's about 7.5 gallons per mile. The Governor is fast. We'll give her that. She can take a lot of cars. She can take 45 cars. You know, it's great to clear out a parking lot in Vineyard Haven, but you know, that's not that often that we have to do that. And again, she just can't take that many trucks, and she can't take as many passengers either. Next. So this is the overall comparative summary that we have for her. The annual costs, I'm gonna say, you know, yeah, the Nantucket's $100,000 more than the Governor, but I'd say those are all pretty equivalent. The big deal is the utilization. We just don't need the governor that often. And of course, the route flexibility is a big challenge that you can only work on one route, whereas the other two boats can work on any of our routes. And then again, she's got a limited remaining life. I'd say the Nantucket and Sankaty are also not long for this world, unfortunately, but that's going to be part of our overall fleet replacement program that we're developing. But right now, the governor, we're looking at boats that we just can't afford to hold on to. She's the one I would love to keep her. She's a bit of a museum piece. If there's a way we could do it, make it a museum, that'd be great. But it's the question: do we really need to keep her around for an extra $600,000 a year? So this is our recommendation. We want to hold on to the Nantucket because she is part of our core service. The Sankaty is kind of a core spare vessel. We use her quite often, and she can dock over here in in Hyannis during the winter when Fairhaven is full of boats being repaired. And we suggest disposing of the governor. And again, it's not going to be if we make that decision today, if we make it at the board meeting in the next couple of weeks, it's not like this boat's going to go away next month. She's going to be around. It's going to take a while for us to develop a plan of how to sell her, how to dispose of her. So it probably won't be till the fall, I would think, to see the back end of her.
Great. Thank you for all of that analysis. We did discuss that just, I think, at the last meeting about doing a deeper dive to help us all fully understand, for some of us, a very difficult decision. I think this may be the one exception to the rule of the two happiest days of a boat owner's life, right? It certainly seems clear to me, but let's see what other questions or comments the council has. Right?
I just had just to back up to a little higher altitude on this. Why is this before us now? Why, in other words, we've had these vessels for a long time. Why are we deciding for this disposal?
I'd just like to add that when we bring the Monomoy into service, that's going to further displace the availability, the amount we'll need, not two vessels, but a spare vessel. And that's an important, movement into the fleet this year, and Monomoy will start, sometime very soon.
So when we brought on the Aquina and the Barnstable, I don't even remember the name of the two boats that we.
Katima and Gayhead.
Katima and Gayhead, we found that those were unnecessary to keep. So now with the Monomoy coming on, it's again looking at the fleet. Do we need to have 11 boats in the service, or do we right size back to 10?
There you go.
Yeah.
If I may.
Oh, sorry. Matt had his hand up, and then I'll go to you, Joe.
Okay. You don't live on the vineyard here, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from people that I see every day, and they're very not upset, but they're very sad to see the governor going because of its speed, and it's a very popular boat here on the vineyard. I understand that the docking fees of 20 berthing fees, what is it, 39,000 a month?
Yeah, it's about 30,000 a month.
About 30,000 a month. I did a little research on something. When they got Fairhaven, how many spaces do they have for up to park boats there, just to use a term?
We have 3 spaces there.
There are three spaces there. How many at one time do you have boats being? How many workspaces? In other words, boats being worked on. Do you have? Is that included in the 3 spaces?
Well, we had to put the governor over at Fairhaven Shipyard this winter because during the fall and spring repair seasons and vessels coming back from dry docks, that 3 space is fully utilized for getting the fleet ready for the going back into service.
And I thought there were more spaces over there when they first got into Fairhaven, that they had 1 or 2 workspaces and maybe 3 or 4 spaces for boats to be in. But if these boats are running constantly, there's no space this summer to keep the boat there, so at least we have it until say Oak Bluffs closes in October.
There is space in the summertime there, but our main issue is when we start our repair season in September through April, that is the real busy season. That's where we don't have a place for the governor.
But I, as I just said, is there any way we can keep this at least until Oak Bluffs closes in October, so we have that boat coming into Vineyard Haven? Because I think that's important with the number of trips that we have coming in here and the number of cars that it carries. I know it's limited on trucks, but it does carry 45 cars.
Yeah, I would say the boat's not gonna go away tomorrow. I mean, it's definitely gonna take us months. Usually, it's gonna take quite a while for us to actually dispose or to sell the boat, because there's photos and printing and circulars. We gotta find a broker, and it's gonna be a long process to sell a boat. So I would say it's probably safe to say the boat's not going anywhere before October.
I was just going to say, I know if it's coming, is this age discrimination because it's 70 years old?
Well, Joe, you're welcome to buy it. You can have you'll get first right of refusal.
I wish we could, but it is a favorite. It is a favorite over here, and it's sentimental reasons too.
We'll start a GoFundMe page.
Okay, thank you. I understand the practicality of it. I'm not trying to give it. I understand the practicality.
No, and I don't mean to be flip. I understand people have strong feelings about the vote, and I appreciate that.
Sometimes you have to vote with your head and not your heart.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're low?
Yes, this is reminding me of when we got the island home and the islander had to go, right?
Tell me.
Same exact conversations,
Tell
Joe.
me.
I got kind of lambasted a little bit the other day over here about this from somebody that I have high respect for, and sent me all kinds of pictures and stuff. Kind of got my heartstrings pulled. But like Joe is right. This is one of those situations you have to look at it outside of the attachment factor. But is there a way to look at a true shoulder season scheduling that we really utilize that boat? Because we're not utilizing it the way, and don't get me started about everybody wants the Woods Hole. Like, we got the Woods Holes being pulled into 3 different pieces now because everybody wants the Woods Hole. Could be 12 months a year and never need to get anything done to it. But bottom line is, that boat has a purpose if we had a way to plug it in the shoulder seasons on the Vineyard route correctly. The other thing I was going to ask Mark A. about, just kind of popped into my head a little bit, is this whole situation with Thame Shipyard being kind of like the only shipyard right now for our regular work. Does that play any role in maintenance being done in parts of the year for timing purposes, because we really only have one shipyard where that could help? I'm just trying to find some kind of avenue that makes sense, but it's still, as Alex said, the 11 versus 10 is the big elephant in the room. That's where we're really at right now. If it wasn't the governor, and we had, let's just say, 4 mud boats, and we had like 2 Sankaty class boats instead of the Sankaty and the governor, we'd be talking about which Sankaty are we getting rid of. That's what we'd be doing right now. That's where we are. So I do appreciate the reality discussion about the Nantucket. I'm not going back to 5th grade when I went on that boat when it was brand new for a tour, but that boat has incredible use still, even though it's narrow down the middle. It works great on the Oak Bluffs route because it has a lot of passenger capacity and is good with 1 lane of trucks and rest cars. So it's lost its efficiency on the Nantucket route for sure, but it really works well on that Oak Bluffs route. So that's where I am. And as far as the spare issue, Alex is doing his homework on this because he's sounds like he's been here for a while, the way he's been talking today. So that means he's talking to people. That's good. So having that boat in Hyannis in the winter, Mark, we can't have, like, say, one of the new boats parked in the fast boat slip, kind of, kitty cornered over there. It won't fit, correct? One of those boats?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, on the good side of that, though, having 3 operational slips in Woods Hole does help us with that spare scenario being way better than it used to be. Because the slip that we call the lee side slip back in the day, that slip is now good for a spare, and it can run to Hyannis if needed pretty quickly, instead of it being down in Fairhaven. So that's good. So there's a lot of things that have improved. It's just that it is really handy to have that Sankaty in Hyannis in the wintertime for a spare, which worked out really well this year with the insanity with the storm and all those electric trucks getting put on that boat to get them out of here all at the same time. So that's it, really, for me. I see where we're headed. I just, I'm trying to thread the needle just a teensy bit with the whole thing about shoulders. But I mean, again, it really is about the 11 versus 10. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, along those lines about, if you were to adjust the schedule, I guess my concern might be, as a butch amateur at this, but I ask your opinion, increasing the utilization of a 75-year-old vessel, right? Are we inviting, more maintenance or more breakdowns and more unreliability if we're going to increase its utility beyond what it is now, for the sake of keeping it? Is that a risk?
It is, but I think where we look at it is from a point is from safety issues, including the steering system. The steering system is built in a time period, and it's so simplistic, yet so there's just no parts available. There could be a day when you are just stopped and there's no more place to go. I mean, the steering is literally built of 1.5 inch anchor chain, which is being pulled the ship back and forth. Quite frankly, it's an engineering marvel. Having said that, there's a day when it's a bad day, and there's no parts for this. Everything we do in the dry dock is custom manufacture, and we're making constant adjustments on a month-to-month basis, just going down to tighten chains up. It's very, very critical. It's a very high maintenance area. That's one of my chief concerns on that when you compare it to the other boats.
So you could do find replace and everything you just said and add New Bedford hurricane barrier gates where you said steering system, right? It's exactly what we're dealing with on a regular basis with a 65-year-old bespoke barrier system that doesn't have spare parts too. So we stay awake at night on a pretty regular basis that nothing goes wrong there. So and that's just a series of doors that open and close, not a vessel that was carrying people and all that. So
Can I have one other question? How many trips had the governor missed because of mechanical reasons? If we know that.
Well, I think that,
too many,
I don't know that offhand, Joe, but I would say it's very low, but our utilization has been very low over the past couple of years as well.
But I think, isn't that something that Matt was talking about, that we could use it more? We just don't. I know we're gonna have to at some point go, but I'm saying we don't utilize it maybe the way we should be utilizing it.
Well, I'd ask Allison to comment.
But I don't know that. I mean, that's a question.
But we often get put in a position that, we're doing mixed loads, and the amount of truck capacity that it can carry along with cars is different at different times of the day, at different times of the month.
The only time I could really see it
You need
being,
to come up. No.
I tried. I'm gonna send it to Mark.
we diaphragm.
Never get sent to him.
Project.
I can really see it being utilized if we ever get back to the volume of traffic that we had pre-COVID, when we had a 5-boat schedule on the Vineyard route. Potentially maybe utilizing that as the 5th boat, single crew, 5 days a week type thing, 3 to 4 trips a day. But until we get those numbers back up, it's gonna be hard to utilize the governor in that aspect, so. But I have sentimental value towards her too, so I can't, it's hard for me to talk down on her as well, so.
Thank you, Allison.
Yep.
All right. So we've come to the moment, Greg.
I just, just listening to everybody, I mean, the age of the vessel notwithstanding, it does provide us some cushion relative to reserve capacity. And, what the value that is when we might need it. You're never gonna replace it for what we're gonna get for it. And so it's got a current COI. It's maintained very well by our staff. It's not like, it's a vessel that can't pass inspection and doesn't run. So, for what it could offer us in emergency situations, I think that should be, considered as part of this as well.
It's worth more to us than anybody else.
Yeah, and I would say that just coming back with the actual carrying costs, they're lower than what I presented last month, so it's not as big a nut to crack. So we are trying to pinch pennies where we can, and I realize that less, $500,000 compared to whatever a replacement vessel cost is pennies, really. So in some ways, it would be nice just to hold on to her. Again, today she's in use because we need to use the Woods Hole for this exercise. And of course, that's a one-off deal. It's only a couple days, but it's a couple days. So I'm totally of mixed message. I'm throwing out a mixed message here about whether or not we should do this or not. So I am leaving it to your council to hear what your thoughts are.
I'm tempted to make a joke about the advantage to being an advisory board, not a fiduciary board, but we have the luxury of being nostalgic, I suppose, in some ways on the port council. Having said that, it does seem like there isn't an urgency necessarily to this decision. It's just money, right, for now, to save that. Sorry, Mark. To provide that flexibility and that option. So, there were a number of good points brought up. And kind of like Alex, I haven't ridden on any of those boats, right? So it's hard for me to, to make judgment. I would default to the operational flexibility in most cases, but the management has brought this recommendation to us, or this suggested recommendation to us. Any other final thoughts while I filibuster a little bit more on this from Nat and Joe?
Good. Can I make a suggestion that we don't take any action on it right now and see what the governors have to say about it? I mean, because it doesn't seem to me that it has to be immediate, as you just said, that we have to make a decision today after we've had these.
Absolutely. Excellent suggestion, Joe. Yeah, no, I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to convey to the board, our understanding of the issues, but the misgivings of making the decision right now. That probably won't be the first time I would be accused of cowardice, but I think there were a number of good points brought up, and there's an awful lot of capability on the board to talk through this. So with that, Terry, do we need to take a vote of no action, or do we just take no action?
You could just take no action.
Brilliant. That will be my suggestion then.
Table it for
We'll table it for future meetings and to respond to any input or conversations that are had at the board level in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing on this? I want to just ask Mark another question. The chain driven steering is an amazing, you're right. But it's not a steam engine situation or something that's impossible, or maybe it is. Maybe that is to the level of the Noshon or the Snobska or whatever when they the steam versus those engines and gearboxes in that boat are good. And the value of the governor to another entity could be, you know, to keep its life going. I'm trying to find some kind of silver lining in this whole thing. When we got rid of the other boats, I mean, I don't even remember what happened to the Untitled. I think it became a restaurant for 10 minutes somewhere. But this boat might have a life in another location because of its uniqueness, right? Whereas the other boats that we moved on from didn't. So I'm just, you know, trying to, you know, say, you know, it's sort of like, you know, extending its life in another place, you know, instead of it being just scrapped and that's the end of it. No one cares. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to, because that boat had a life way before we got it somewhere. So, or more than one place. So just, this is different than the last boats that we've moved on from. This is a little different. And I'm just trying to find some silver lining here because I really feel we need to keep the Sankaty regardless of all of this. But is there a way that this vessel can be repurposed somewhere? Is there a market for it? Have we had anybody? Is there some way we could advertise it without necessarily, you know, getting around some of our insane procurement stuff where we could have discussions with someone directly that might be interested, that kind of a thing. So that's what I'm looking at.
We have had one party show interest in the vessel already. I do, as you're saying that, I do recognize that. We did, there was one other ferry company, I can't recall who it was, I'd have to go back. I don't know if you remember who they were more, but no, so we can go back and see. I don't know if they're serious or not, or they just happened to see our board minutes and did ask, so. We could do, I don't know from a legal standpoint how we go about doing that, but we can just ask, see how interested they are and then tell them it's available in October.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Just real quick, I was pleased that it's been tabled currently, but at some point, we're advisory to the board, so we would give them some perspective, not today, but at some point before they deliberate, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, for better or worse, they start their meetings with an update from us on our port council meeting. So I'll be there actually in person because we're hosting on the 21st. So I will be able to convey to the board the sort of the thinking and the conversation here today.
Great. Thank you.
Before they deliberated on the 21st.
And I think one of the things we will bring back to that, it was just pointed out to me that, you know, since we needed her today for this thing, like what else might we need her for in the next year or 2 years that we'll go back and have seller's remorse kind of thing.
Right.
I think that's a really super valid question.
Exactly. Better looking at it than looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that there's carrying not just the cost, but you know, we have to devote personnel to it to keep it maintained. And that taps into our resources as well, who could maybe be better utilized elsewhere. So we can do a little bit more work and then, you know, put this on the board's shoulders to answer. Good enough.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good conversation. I think with that, if there's no other old or new business, Sean, I guess we can go to public comment.
Sure. If anyone has public comment, you can hit the raise your hand icon. Amy?
Good morning, Amy Cody Chilmark. I have 3 questions. The first is on the slide for cancellations. I didn't see a category for unforeseen circumstances. And I just wanted to, I didn't take a screenshot of it, but is there also a category for crew shortages and trip consolidation? And I think that there should be a category for all 3. Specifically, I just didn't see unforeseen circumstances, but can someone address whether there were the other 2 categories?
Sure, I'll address that. So we do have on the cancellation, we have a crew category. And then the unforeseen category goes into traffic on the cancellations. And we could put a footnote on that because the unforeseens don't happen that often. on how many there are, because at a certain point, we just run out of real estate to have the, all the categories, be legible.
And what about,
Consolidation
I'm sorry, what about trip consolidation?
The trip consolidation is the traffic. For lack of traffic, we consolidate the trips. And then we have something for, schedule. And we have a schedule one where previously we've changed it because of, we've adjusted the operating schedule during the course of the year. Last year, I believe it was the Hyannis, we put those numbers in, and then the crewing is if we have a crew shortage. So those are, Sean, can you pull up the business summary? Sorry.
I already closed it, so.
Yeah, so on the, there is categories for schedule, crewing, and traffic, which is the trip consolidation, Amy. And the unforeseen cancellations roll into the traffic, but I can put a footnote on the bottom like we do for the Oak Bluff trip diversions.
Okay, that would
And
be
Amy,
great.
these slides are posted online, so you can always go back and look
Yeah.
at them.
Great. Okay, thanks so much. Also, the second question I have is, Alex had mentioned that you would look at other lots to mitigate summer traffic issues. And Alex, I wonder if you could expand on that, whether you're talking about staging in Palmer or Gifford, or whether you're talking about something else.
Yeah, we're looking at the options of staging. What kind of options can we do to mitigate traffic down there?
Okay,
So yeah,
so
that's what we're looking at Palmer, Thomas B. Landers, Gifford. That's something we haven't delved into deeply enough yet. So I don't have a slide or anything to show, but that's something we definitely want to consider.
so you're saying that you would consider that for this to mitigate this summer's traffic, which will start
If
in.
we get it together, yeah, sure. If we can get it together and do it properly, we would.
Okay. Also, one more question about the terminal budget sheet. I didn't see anything, the 36.9 million. That doesn't include the 9.82 million that's budgeted for landscaping and the park issue. I'm wondering where that $9.82 million is on that sheet, and why it doesn't show up.
No, that's a separate item. This particular budget and contract has to do with the utility and terminal building and construction. That will be the landscaping that will be forthcoming.
Okay, so the 9.82 million will be additional as a separate kind of discussion, you're saying, or a separate statement.
Yeah, that's the phase 3 portion of the thing. So this is, we're in phase 2 and the capital expenditures report. It's just for the 2 buildings. That's currently the 9.8 million that you're talking to. That'll be coming up next when we start addressing phase 3 of the project, which is landscaping and the parking lot surfacing and that stuff.
Okay, and I have one more. I know this wasn't on the agenda, so it's not really posed as a question. I know you don't have to address it publicly, so I could follow up with in writing, but I'm wondering that usually the preliminary boat schedule for 2027 is released around March, and I'm wondering when it will be released.
We're hoping to have it released in May is our goal right now. We've had a lot of stuff going on. I'm still trying to get my arms wrapped around everything, and we want to make sure we do the schedule right, and we're making sure it's, taking a look at the shoulder seasons as Naz asked us to, and kind of look at all the schedules and all the time. So we want to make sure we do a thorough analysis of it before we put it out. So we're shooting for May right now.
Great. Thanks so much, Alex. Thank you.
Yep.
And Beth O'Connor.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I just have a follow-on question on the whole landscaping thing, because we've been asking that question kind of repeatedly. So we can use this building with no landscaping? Is that the point that we're saying? We're opening the building with no we don't have to do any surfacing around the building to use it? That 9.82 million?
We're not going to be resurfacing the area around the building. There will be some cleanup of all the construction equipment, but all the exterior phase 3 is not going to be done prior to the opening.
Would include the removal of the temporary terminal building. So landscaping is small word for a lot of work. It's removal of the building and the finishing.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
and so this summer, we're still gonna be dealing with kind of this quasi functional, like we're gonna still have the old building in there, trying to figure out what the traffic pattern is gonna be and all that good stuff. Is that okay? All right, that'll be an interesting summer for you. And then I have just one more question. I noticed that we still don't have a reservation capital expenditure slide. And I know we've been asking for that for a little while. When will we see a reservation system? I didn't see it in this packet unless I missed it, guys. Sorry if I did. But when will we get the cost estimate of that reservation system? We were questioning, the last one we saw, we had a couple questions on, and maybe that was in a regular board meeting, but I would think that this particular group would also have their finger on the pulse of the spend of the reservation system.
I'll take that. So we presented at the last IT steering meeting. There were the previous one. There were some requested changes on the presentation. So I made changes to it at the last IT steering meeting, and we'll be finalizing it for the following IT steering meeting. We can bring it to the Port Council. We're still working on some of the costs as we go through discovery on what's still going to be needed for the final phases. That's really on some of the testing, training areas, but we can give the items that we have firm numbers for.
Yeah, and when will we? I'm curious as to when we're going to see those, because it's been a couple. I think I could be wrong on this. I think it's been a couple months since we've had our finger on that pulse.
Yeah, we had it at the last IT steering as far as the software. And
yeah, I get that. I'm talking about the Port Council meeting.
Yeah, I can bring it to the Port Council in May.
Okay,
And one thing to say, on the IT steering committee, we did at the last IT steering committee decide that we're gonna have those on a monthly basis. The fourth Tuesday of the month is where those will be recurring. It's not gonna be kind of ad hoc anymore. So that'll be on the 28th of this month. We'll have another official IT steering committee.
Okay, and then it will be will it be part of the meeting we attend for the Port Council every month? Because that's a big nugget for the Port Council to be monitoring, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm asking.
Sure. So as Mark just said, we'll do this at the 28th. We'll get the update and the answers to the questions that were raised last week at the steering committee, and then we'll present it at the May Port Council meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
If it deviates beyond that substantially, Beth, then yeah, we'll provide updates to the Port Council as we go forward.
Okay,
sure.
Thanks so much. Okay, thanks.
And Nat Trumbull.
My question is about the island home and the exhaust we're seeing now. As bad as I've ever seen. Is biofuel being used currently? Will it be used? I thought had some assurance last fall that there would be funds available for using other fuels on the island home, and so if not, this really strengthens our resolve to request that there be air monitoring at each of the ports. Thank you.
No, at this time, Nat, yeah, I saw your email. Sorry, I just saw it this morning. I was tied up with various meetings until late last night. We'll take a look at the island home and the smoke issue. I haven't heard that other than thank you for pointing that out. We'll check into that. It's not using biofuels at this time, but we'll look into why it might be belching out more smoke than normal, and that's something definitely we want to take a look at.
All right, that's all I have.
All right. If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the April 7th meeting of the Port Council.
So moved.
Thank you. Greg,
Second.
second. Thank you. All in favor, Greg?
Aye.
Nat?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I too am an aye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See you next month.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.